The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel is Pat Scott. Hi, Pat.
Hello there.
Yeah, it's just Pat and I this week. It's Holy Week, and so Father Andrew and all the other priests and some of the lay people who work for parishes are all very busy this week, and so it's just the two of us this time. So blessed Holy Week, Pat. I hope you're having a good Holy Week.
Yes, it's quiet, but good. Yes. Thank you.
And we wish a blessed Holy Week to all of you, and a happy Easter, because that'll be coming up before our next episode together. But so this time, well, before I get to today's topic, I wanted to mention something that we're planning. We wanted to do an episode coming up on building a PC from scratch. Now, as a Mac guy, I've never built a PC. And frankly, I've used them as little as possible in the past. Sometimes I've had to use Windows for work, for various jobs, but in general, I'm not a PC guy. But we want to talk about building a PC. How hard is it? How expensive is it? What kind of decisions do you make? What kind of how do you find out what to get and which parts to buy and how it all goes together? And so we want to do a couple episodes on that, and then once we build it, we can talk about problems we ran into, things to keep in mind, how it went, because a lot of people, for a lot of people, it might be worthwhile to build your own PC. It might be less expensive. You might get a better computer for the money, that sort of thing. And so we're going to do that coming up. Now, given that we're a nonprofit that's entirely funded by your donations, we need your help to do that. And so if you'd like to see us do this and you want to support us in doing that, go to sqpn.com/give and either make a PayPal donation or you can become a patron, and that'll help us pay for this project. This is the first time we've kind of done something like this where we're doing a project and asking you to help us fund it in advance. And so if you would like to help us get this project off the ground, and if you'd like to hear that sort of episode, whatever you can give, whatever amount, if you've got the, some spare dollars to send us to help us do that, we'd really appreciate it. So sqpn.com/give. So this time we are talking about, our topic for today is about tech for getting outdoors. We want to talk about, it's in the Northern Hemisphere, springtime. For some of us, springtime is earlier than others. Pat, where you are in Texas, spring showed up a little while ago. For us
I
here,
think we got summer now.
Right, that's what I've heard. For us, spring is just showing up. We've got the flowers, the weather's turning nice. It's warm. We want to get outdoors. And so we wanted to talk about tech that'll help us get outdoors. Now, I want to make a distinction. We are going to do an episode probably next week on tech for camping, specifically, because there's all kinds of tech involved with that you could possibly use. But I want to talk about this time just tech that helps us get outdoors and go, for a hike, to enjoy the outdoors in various ways. And so that's what we want to start with. So Pat, do you like to go for walks? Do you go outdoors? Do you take your tech with you?
I'm not big on getting outdoors in Texas heat. But I, certainly on the times that we've done family vacations, I've enjoyed being out. And so I understand a lot of the tech. I don't get out there very much.
Okay. So we've
anymore.
Right. Well, when you come up to visit us, you certainly we certainly go out and do things and go for rides and go various places, and the kids love to take grandma to the outdoors themselves. So let's talk about some of the different bits and pieces that would be involved in this. And we'll start with talking about some apps and websites that will help us when we're getting outdoors. And I'll start with one that I particularly like, and I think I've mentioned before on the show. So this will be a review or renewed look at it. It's an app called All Trails, and what All Trails is, it's available for iOS and Android, and there is the free version, but there's also a subscription. And what it is, it's a combination of both social network but also resource. It's kind of like Yelp for trails, for outdoors trails. Now, not just hiking trails where you put on a backpack and you hike into the woods for 3 days and, you cook your own food over a fire, but this includes like city parks and, places around the corner. And it's really great because there are tons of trails near where you live. Like where I live, as I was looking through this, there are a ton of places, including places I'd never seen or heard of. And what it does is, so that it gives it categories. It's easy trails, moderate trails, difficult trails, trails that are good for families, trails that are good for groups, good for other trails that are good for solo. I mean, they have different categories. One of the things that you could do is when you look it up, so you say you look at one of the trails, it'll show you how long it is, what kind of trail it is. Is it a one-way trail, or is it a circular trail, or is it an out and back, like you go up the same trail and come back on the trail the same direction, or the opposite direction you went, or is it a circular trail like a loop? It'll give you directions to it. There are reviews, like user reviews, people who've gone. They'll tell you about what the trail was like. Is it rocky? Do you have to do a lot of climbing? Are there a lot of good birds? And then when you go to the particular trail, they'll give you a full map that you can, if you buy the service, there's a subscription, you can download the maps for offline use, which is very useful, so that when you're out there and you don't have any bars, you still get the map on your phone and you can track where you are using the GPS. They'll tell you things like what the weather is going to be like on the next few days at that location, where to park, all kinds of great information. And like I said, and then you can create lists. I've created lists of hikes that I want to do with my scout troop, with my scouts. And then I've created another list of hikes that I want to do with my family. It's really great. So definitely check it out. It's alltrails.com is their website. So Pat, what do you have that's something you want to mention? Well,
I was hearkening back to when our family did a lot of van touring and wandering around. And so I found some things that I think if I had had them then, they would have been extremely helpful. And I have friends who still are going out there in the great outdoors. The first one is kids and adults are fascinated by the night sky. And I can speak for the one that I've used, but I know friends that have used multiple of the apps. But just the idea of you can take your phone out in the dark, raise it up, have the app up there. It'll show you where the constellations are, where Venus is, or lets you see all around. Some of the apps even let you see what's on the other side of the hemisphere, of the world. I think that would be kind of cool to know, underneath my feet, there's the Southern Cross,
Right.
That would be kind of cool. So I can remember being up on top of some of the Mesa Verde and just the glorious stars in the outdoors. So I'm kind of going on some of those possibilities that I wish we had back then.
Right. Yeah. So we'll have a link to a site that at space.com that lists some of the best stargazing apps that they've found. But one that I like that my whole family uses, we have one called Sky Guide. And we have it it's on the iPhone. And a couple of the really nice features of it is it has a feature where you put it wherever you point your phone it shows you what's in the sky where you're looking. Right. So sometimes we'll be out and we'll say, what's that bright one right there? And we'll pull it out, we'll hold up, and it will say, oh, that is Sirius. And, it's right there on the horizon or whatever. And then it will show the constellations around it as well. And then there's also a mode where you can look through the camera. So it turns the camera on and superimposes the details, like the labels, on what's actually your actual view of the sky, which is really nice. So yeah, so Sky Guide is one of them. A lot of them do that sort of thing. And then there's all kinds of other features in it, like, stuff about the space station. I noticed when I launched Sky Guide just now, it told me that you can now look at an AR, augmented reality view of the James Webb Space Telescope now in it. And so space news. So stargazing apps are really awesome. They've really transformed our ability, like, to go outside with the kids and know what you're looking at.
Yeah, Starwalk was the one that I had used, and I know my other daughter, Teresa, she has used one that she's real happy with. So there's a lot of good ones out there, is my point. So kind of look at the reviews, but yes, they are amazing.
Good. That's a great choice. Yeah, it's one area where your technology has really improved our ability to go outside to help us. And that's the other thing is, a lot of times we'll say, oh, we want to leave tech behind when we go outdoors, but this is a way that the tech can help and not get in the way. And that's a really nice aspect of it. So my next one is kind of a weird, fun one. And this is one that was discussed with Jimmy Akin on an episode of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World called Randonautica. And it's kind of funky because they kind of claim, half tongue-in-cheek, I think, that it's sort of psychic, where you open the app and you kind of think about what kind of place you want to go, and it will pick a randomly generated GPS coordinate. And there are various parameters you can put into it, but one of the ideas is it's truly random. It's just, it'll drop you. It won't drop you in the middle of water. It won't drop you in the middle of buildings. It's got some things, there's some parameters like that, but it will drop you in a wilderness place that may not actually be accessible even, but it's sort of this idea that people who do, they kind of get this idea of, take me someplace truly random and I'll see if I can get there. And so it's this kind of fun, weird journey of discovery. That may be fun. It may be fun. You may be tired of going on the same old trails or whatever, and you want a little bit of, say, adventure in suburbia. So you fire up Randonautica and you tell it, give me a random place, and you could set the parameters of how far from where you currently are you want it to choose and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of different ways of setting it, but it's as far as I know, it's still
whimsical.
Free. Yeah. It's kind of wild. I think it's still free. They have an official guidebook now and merchandise and stuff. I think that's how they support themselves. But it's kind of fun. Some people feel kind of weirded out by the mystical language that they sometimes use, but it's not that big a deal. I think it's mostly tongue in cheek is the way I look at it. So, it's kind of fun. Okay, so Pat, what do you have next?
Well, we did a lot of vacationing near and around mountains. And so I found an app that I would have loved to have had then, where you can, again, take your phone, point it at the horizon, and it'll show you the names of the peaks that are in that area.
Oh.
So you can say, oh, that's that one, and you could plan on getting there or whatever. But it'll show you, based upon your GPS coordinates, it'll show you an overlay of what mountains are out there and which ones are, and give them names.
That is awesome. Like, even in places that aren't like very mountainous, very hilly, this would be really, like, there have been times when I've been, say, in Acadia National Park up in Bar Harbor, Maine, and you look out and you're like, what am I looking like? I see stuff out there, but I'm not sure what I'm seeing. I'm not sure what those peaks are. Is that Mount Washington or is that something much closer? That would have been very handy. I like that idea. It's amazing how they can use like basic, like it knows where you are and it has a map, a contour map of the area, and just figures it out from that.
That was called Peak Finder, and I thought that sounded really cool.
That is cool. That is great. Peak Finder does it say if it cost anything? Is that we should probably be looking at that and see if people.
We can put that in the show notes, but I'm sorry, I forgot to go look for cost.
That's fine. I can pull it up really. That was $5 on the App Store, so that's that one is.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
But that is reasonable if you're going on vacation. It's an inexpensive sort of addition. So another map app that might be useful that I've used before is called Avenza Maps, avenzamaps.com. Now, the way this works is if you've ever seen those sectional maps, they're called. You see them a lot in Scouts. You see them a lot in hiking and camping. You've often you see them in outdoor stores, and it will be a map of a particular geographic area, and it will show the contours and any trails and features and all that sort of stuff. And what Avenza does is it's now made those available digitally, so you can download it to your phone. It's not really an interactive map. It's kind of like a PDF, but it does make it available. It's different than, like, say, Apple Maps or Google Maps, because it has more of the elevation data that the contour map gives you, but it also is, again, available offline. So if you don't have any bars, you still have access to it. Now you got a battery, but we'll talk about that later. But each sectional map is a few bucks. You can buy I bought like the whole Acadia National Park one a few years ago when we were going up there for vacation, and it was like $5 or $10 or something along those lines. So, and then once you bought it, you have an account, you always own it. So even if you delete it off your phone, you can re-download it and that sort of thing. So Avenza Maps. So that's been very useful. Topographic maps. That's what I was trying to say.
Topo, yeah.
Topo maps. All right, what's next for you, Pat?
Well, speaking of cell phone coverage, I have not tried this one, but there's an app that lets you find out, and it's group sourced, to find out where you've got cell phone coverage when you're out hiking and out camping and out in the wild. And I was very naive the last time we went on a trip to Yosemite, and it was just my husband and I thought, I've got my iPhone. I don't need any stinking maps, and got up there and realized, no, I ran out of cell phone range. And so I would have to get up to the top of a peak, try to capture the map, and then drive until it just showed me the line, and I no longer could see the outline of the actual features on the map. But yeah, this is becoming much more important. So I thought this was interesting because it shows it's group sourced by people who are actually out there and can tell you, okay, this is a good spot. No, forget it. And especially if you're out hiking and there's a chance that you could get lost. And I think it has some features where you can also put in something like you're going on a particular hike and with check-in points, and if you're not checked in or let it know where you are, then there could be some rescue operations launched from that. I think that's the one I remember seeing.
Oh, okay.
But I thought that sounded like a good safety type thing.
Yeah, so they have a free tier and a subscription tier. And the free tier, you get maps, trails, and cell coverage information, which is good. So the basic functionality. But with a subscription, you get additional features, which might include the whole emergency stuff that might be in there as well. So that's interesting.
If I find out that wasn't the one that had the emergency stuff, I'll put that in the show notes. But
it does say, like, get found if you're overdue. Safety contacts are notified when you're past due. Live tracking contacts can see your GPS location during your trip or hike. Gives you rescue advice. So yeah, that's pretty good. It doesn't say what the in-app purchase, how much it is on it. So you'll have to take a look for that yourself and see what before you buy anything. All right, so that's your most recent. So I want to mention another one. You're gonna want to know the weather when you're out and about. That's an important thing. And my favorite weather app is Carrot Weather. It's available for iOS and Android. It's weather with an attitude. Let's just put it that way. Which is you can turn up or down. Like, you can turn off the attitude. And if you don't want to, it's a funny, snarky, like a homicidal AI app, which is some people's sense of humor, and other people, they're not really into that, which is fine. If you can turn off the personality part, it's still, I think, the best weather app out there. It's got so many features. You can customize it, to the nines to give you exactly the information you want. And the nice thing is it's also sort of auto modal. Depending on what the weather is or what time of day, it will display the different weather features differently. So if it's going to rain, it will be much more likely to show you a rain gauge map and percentages of rain in the area and that sort of stuff. It's a great weather app. And it also has different levels that you can unlock, different subscription levels. I think I pay $10 a year for one step below premium. Premium has some features I'm like, I don't really need that sort of stuff. But the $10 level gives you weather radar, which I don't know. I like having a weather radar, so I can say, okay, there's the rain over there. It's coming this way. We better get under cover. Or, wow, that is a really bad storm. Let's get under cover. That sort of thing. So, yeah, it has also different weather sources. So there are multiple sources for weather, like AccuWeather, Weather Channel, Fonseca, I think is one it's called. And it's a little fact that different weather sources are better in different places. And oh gosh, I hadn't thought of it before, but I should have looked up. There's a website that will tell you which weather source is better where you are.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah, so AccuWeather, Dark Sky, Climacell, one might be better, have like a better track record for predicting the weather in your area than others, and you can then choose the right one for you. So Carrot Weather is great, and I would definitely recommend it.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, sometimes it's so funny and so timely. Sometimes like something will happen in the news, and then later that day it will have a snark about it. Like when I think when Elon Musk bought 10% of Twitter's stock, like later that day it had some sort of funny snarky comment about it, which was I'm like, this guy must just be sitting at his computer all day typing in the funny things that he sees in the news. It's awesome. All right, Pat, what's your next pick of app?
Right. All of our vacations were taken in a van and riding across the country. And so one of the things I found just like over the last 6 years was an app that, as you're driving down the road, you see these little metal signs that say, a historical marker. And I'm always so curious about what that historical marker is. It a pioneer farm? Is it an old stagecoach route? Is it a site of a previous jail out in the middle of West Texas? What are these historical markers? And so this was called Roadside Historical Markers and Attractions. And there were other things in that app too. They would show you other, I'd say touristy, but other outdoor, other scenic things that you might be interested in seeing. But seeing those little roadside markers and whizzing past them and wondering what we just missed because we're on a schedule.
That is awesome. Yeah, I like the idea of you often see those like historical markers, interpretive signs, war memorials, that sort of stuff, and you're driving past them and but someone put these up to commemorate something. Like, right. What was that? I want to know. And so this
if it's important, I'll turn around and go back.
Yeah. I mean, you may discover a diamond in the rough, a hidden gem of a place that you'll talk about for years as, remember that time we were driving through that little town and we saw the sign and we stopped and it was the most awesome thing ever?
Yeah.
I love that idea. I remember Google had some apps a while ago, and I don't know if it was maybe one of the things that Google has killed off. But it was a sort of a Google Field something. And I don't have it on my phone now, so it might be something that they ended. But it was a similar thing where it was all of these features, cool, interesting features of every town. Like in every town, the interesting things there. So cool. that might have been something fun too, but I don't know if that's gone now. So I wanted to mention, I think we both came up with birding apps, and I'll let you go first since you came up with yours first. If you wanted to talk about it, did you have a birding app that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I have friends who are birders, and I'm not sure, but I think the one that I referenced was eBird, and it's a not just a here identify this bird, but identify a bird and report it so that the Cornell University can gather all this into their database, and so they can look at migration patterns and all sorts of things, as well as it's a fun game for kids to say, what bird did we find today? What 3 birds haven't we ever seen before? And so that eBird was the one that I had noticed, but I see you've got iBird.
Now, iBird is one I've had for years, and I've found it to be so comprehensive. It's a massive app, like something like a gigabyte. Like it's a truly massive app. Now there's different versions. There's iBird Plus, there's iBird Ultimate, this iBird Pro. Just for different depths of your, like, there are people who are like ornithologists who use the iBird Professional. But what it does is iBird does is it helps you identify birds. So you say, I'm in the Northeast. I'm in Massachusetts. Show me all birds that are likely to be found in backyards, in the suburbs, that are at this time of year, and it will help you narrow down, the kinds of birds you're likely to see, and then helps you identify them. And it will show you pictures, including user-generated photos that people have submitted, as well as it'll play bird calls for you, so all the different calls that the birds will make, so you can identify those as well. And then you can also keep a birding list. I've seen this one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I really like iBirds for that. But one of the birding apps, my kids, at least, especially my oldest, is super into birds. She's really good at identifying birds. It's crazy. She's been doing it since she was little. And but this would be a really useful tool for anyone wanting to, learn more about the little things bopping around your yard, and even, what song is that? I've even gotten to the point where I can start to identify bird song, which is kind of amazing to me. At my age, I've kind of learned something about birds that I never
Another
knew
language.
before. Yeah, exactly. So.
Oh, I do want to make one caution, though. My friends who are avid birders say, yes, these are great for identifying bird calls. Don't play them while you're out in the wilderness, because this may be a call of a specific kind, and you are introducing that call into, and can confuse, make them mad, make them upset. So, listen to it quietly where the birds can't hear it, is their point. Right.
That's a good point. Yeah, you don't want to you don't want to mess with the bird's natural existence in the wild. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because some of those can be fight or flight type calls, that or I just spotted a hawk, that type of thing.
Right. Now there's I wanted to mention a fishing app called Angler, and it's kind of, I haven't really used this one myself. I looked into it, and because I like fishing, and I've not used an app to help me with fishing. Frankly, I could use all the help I could get with my fishing. I want an app that puts the fish on the hook. So
I've got one.
Oh yes, it's got VR. Yeah, I've done that one. I'm really good at VR fishing. So this was called Angler, ANGLR. Just like all web things, you leave off the vowel. And what it is that it's sort of a fishing social media logbook. So what
like
it does,
the birder one,
what you log your fishing trips. So if I've gone out and I've gone to this place, and it can track you as you move, like where you've gone, and then when you catch a fish, you can log, I caught this fish this size, here's a picture of it in this location, which can help you or others, if you share it, find good fishing holes and that sort of stuff. So it helps you keep track of what equipment you used, and lures or bait and all that sort of stuff. It's free. There's a pro upgrade, which is like 50 cents a month or $30 a year. 50 cents a month doesn't sound right, because that's like $6 a year. So I think I messed up but it's like $30 a year if you upgrade. So something to check out, Angler, ANGLR, if you're into fishing. Do you have any more, Pat, that you want to
the only other one that I had researched before I got on was, one of the things that we did a lot when we were out hiking was trying to identify mushrooms or identify plants, or what kind of tree is that, or that type of thing. And so a leaf snap, I think, is one that I've heard Melanie use before.
Yes.
And I think, if I had had that back when the kids were, real small, that would have been very helpful to, oh, yes, that is poison ivy. Or, no, you don't want those to get on your hands because they will make them itch real bad. And I saw a plant identifying thing.
Yeah, it often does it based on the shapes of leaves or the fruit, if it's a blossom or fruiting plant. So yeah, it's really good for that. you mentioned mushrooms. I just want to caution: don't ever rely on
No.
an app to tell you whether a mushroom is good to eat or anything is good to eat in the wild.
Assume they're not.
Assume right. These things, there's a margin of error in its identification that is not sufficient for risking your life and health on it. But in general, if you just want to say, well, what kind of tree is that? What kind of flower is that? What kind of bush is that? Certainly, this is a very excellent tool for that sort of thing. Yeah, it's and it's free. This one I think is only iOS, I'm pretty sure, but there might be others that are for Android as well. But the Leaf Snap is just iOS. Excellent. So those are some apps. We also had some games if you want to have some fun in the outdoors. Father Andrew shared some that before he realized he couldn't make it tonight, and a couple that he mentioned, and I'll just throw them out here. One is called Zombies Run. And it's a running app. So if you like to run, I don't, but if others do, well, maybe give you a reason to run. It's
psychologically, at least.
Psychologically. So you basically it's sort of a game where you put in you listen to it in headphones and you get a mission and you hear someone giving you your mission orders on the headphones, and then there's music, and then you start getting chased by, as the name suggests, zombies, and you hear the zombies chasing you, and you have to like speed up and stay ahead of them, and you collect supplies and you build a base, and it's a whole gamifying jogging. It sounds too intense for me, frankly, but
if they would let me kind of walk through it, maybe I could do it.
Right. I just the idea of like hearing zombies chasing me, just
Well, see, in the VR games, you can teleport through them, so I could do that one.
Oh, good. Yeah, that sounds much better. He also mentioned, of course, the always amazing and popular Pokemon Go and its predecessor from the same company called Ingress. Both of them are games that get you outside walking, so they're much less intensive, but they get you outdoors and you walk to real world locations and you play a game at that location, whether it's catching Pokemon or pseudo like pretend hacking, or that's what Ingress is. And there's teams and you win prizes in the game and all kinds of stuff like that. But it's a way to get you outdoors. I've always liked that. I did the Harry Potter version from the same company a couple of years ago. It was okay. It got a little repetitive and I stopped playing, but it was a reason to get out and keep walking. It made some people find walking boring. Like I'm outdoors, I'm walking around a track, or I'm going down the street. I find it boring. I need something to keep me interested. Well, this is one way to stay interested.
Well,
yeah.
Now, the other one that was on our list was the geocaching, and I had a little experience with that with some kids with birthday parties and things like that, where you would go online and find that there were hidden caches in a park or a neighborhood or whatever, and so people would get points for being able to find them. And once you found them, you take them out. And of course, these days you could take a photo of it to prove to yourself, yeah, I really found it, and then you put it back where it was hidden.
Right.
But the idea being is that it's a great way to learn to do navigation via GPS or coordinates like that, or place marks, landmarks.
Yeah, back in the day, it used to be you had to have like a GPS device to help you find things. But since the advent of phones with GPS, it's become much more common and everyone can play it. So what is it? So to kind of what you were saying is a geocache is just something stashed somewhere at a specific location outside in the wilds somewhere, not necessarily
usually in a waterproof box or something like that.
Yeah,
and some little treasure inside.
And it doesn't have to be in like wilderness. It can be in the city. It can be magnetically attached to the bottom of a metal thing, of a pipe, or
a light or something.
Yeah, hidden in a tree trunk, or it could be all kinds of things. And so the idea is you look up a cache in the app, and then you just follow to the location, and then you'll hunt around for it and you'll find it. And when you find it, sometimes there's a logbook. You can write, your name in it and the date or something, or, at least take a selfie with it or something like that. I'm looking at this, the website right now, and it'll know your general location, the website. And so it knows that I'm somewhere near Quincy, Massachusetts, and says there are 2,111 geocaches around Quincy. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I could do geocaching forever. Yeah, so I mean, obviously there'll be more geocaches in more built-up urban areas, but it's such a popular thing, and it's been popular for so long, for decades now. There are lots of them out there, so.
It's almost a precursor to the Pokemon, where you're looking for something out when you're out wandering around.
That's right. Except this is something real. Yeah. So yeah. So it'll be something fun to get you outdoors. So I think we're going to wrap it there. There's some other things we're going to talk about. We didn't talk about gear this time. I'll save that for next time when we're talking about tech for camping, because a lot of this gear also works for that as well. And because obviously you're going to want batteries, and you're going to want, other gear when you're out, hardware gear when you're out in the outdoors. But we'll talk about that next time. In the meantime, let's take a moment. I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make this show possible, including Jacob U, Peter O, Matthew K, Michael H, and Sam W. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So let's talk about some headlines for this week. The first headline is an interesting one. It's from, the Washington Post, and it says, meet the 1,300 librarians racing to back up Ukraine's digital archives. This is an interesting initiative that happened when the war started in Ukraine, when Russia attacked Ukraine. A group of librarians, well, it started with two people, librarians and archivists, who realized that a lot of the websites in Ukraine, the library websites, museum websites, and other sites that hold the cultural heritage of the country are in danger. They're either in danger from hacking, they're in danger from the servers being physically destroyed from warfare, and various other things. And so they started this international effort that has gathered in 1,300 people so far to archive the sites. And they have special software, that the open source software that they use, that when they go to a site, once they discovered it, and it downloads the entire site, all of it digs all the way down through all the different levels of the site, and downloads it all into an archive. And they says they've saved something like 25 terabytes of data so far when this article was written. And it's pretty remarkable. Did you get a chance to look at this, Pat?
I didn't, but I had heard somebody else mention it before, when I was at one of my clients. And so it sounded fascinating. I just didn't get a chance to actually read through it.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about it is that, someone might say, well, the Internet Archive at archive.org, they have something called the Wayback Machine, which is archiving websites. So why don't they just use that? Well, the difference is the Internet Archive, it only scrapes a couple levels down, like maybe the home page and maybe a couple pages below that. It doesn't get an entirety of a website. And it's really important. And this really strikes home for me, because one of the things it does is it's archiving things like histories of the Jewish villages in Western Ukraine near the city of Odessa, which is important to me because that's where my mom's dad's family was from. We're not even quite sure where. And if someday I or my children or their children want to find more about that and maybe track his, that history, they're going to need to have this data still. And if a website has been destroyed, that information can be gone. Like if you think about physical libraries, like the Library of Alexandria, for instance, and other physical libraries and museums that get destroyed, and those things are gone forever. At least in this case, we can make a backup of the website
snapshot.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Like one of the things they said they do is some of the people the volunteers are using Google Street View to go through all these towns and villages and cities looking for street signs. So anything that says museum, library, archive, anything that looks like that, and making a note of it so that someone later will come back and find the website and then download the website. So it's really kind of neat. I'm really glad that they're doing it, and it should happen more than just Ukraine. Anywhere that's got this culture and that's online that could be preserved. So our next headline is from the BBC, and they did an interview with Sid Meier. Now, Sid Meier is he's like a legend in the video game industry. He's been at it for decades, and he has one of the most successful games ever, and several of them, in fact. But the one that he's most well known for probably is Civilization, which is my favorite game. I've been playing it since Civ 3, maybe 2. It's up to Civ 6 now. And it's like 30th anniversary of Civilization, which is remarkable that a game has been around that long. And in the interview he did with the BBC, he talked about this trend toward in games and video games to focus too much on the money, on the monetization, and not enough on the gameplay. And you could kind of dismiss that as saying, "Oh, that's very Pollyanna." Like, these are businesses; they have to make money. You got to pay people. You got to pay for things in order to get, the games produced and maintained. What I would say to that is I don't think he's saying that we shouldn't monetize games, but he's saying with a lot of the trends lately is that we have a lot of focus on things like in-app game purchases and these really like loot boxes and other ways of in the game. There's so much focus on in-app purchasing, in-game purchasing. You get these levels, for instance, in some games that are so hard that the only way to get past that level is if you buy a power up or something like that, or it's games against other people, and you get into a particular battle, in-game battle with another player, whether it's tennis or like shoot 'em up or whatever. But because they've paid for the power up, it's almost impossible to defeat them in it. So you have to kind of just, and move on. And so what he's saying is we need to find other ways to monetize these things that don't really sacrifice gameplay and the fun of games, and that sort of thing. What do you think, Pat? Like I know that you play some games. What do you think?
Well, and I can see that, there's a lot of games on the smartphone that are ad supported, et cetera, like that, or that you have to you buy these trinkets or you buy these coins in order to let you go further or to buy more in the game, et cetera. And that to me is off-putting. But there are some that basically the gameplay is so creative and so interesting and fascinating that you want to support the developers. For instance, there's one game I'm playing right now that's called Walkabout Mini Golf, and it's very inexpensive. It's like $15. And then they're coming out with about a course a month that's $2.99, but it's a whole 36 holes of golf. But it's so creative. They haven't gotten so it just is a cookie cutter of the one course changed around here. So every one they're adding different physics or they're adding different value, and that creativity is what keeps me just fascinated with it. And I get real tired of the little handheld games that are just, one's just like the other and even has the same type of scoreboard or the same whatever. You can tell it's cookie cutter.
Candy Crush clones or the various. One of the things I really like about Apple Arcade is that it's $5 a month. Or unless you get it bundled in like I do with the Apple One subscription. But if you just want the Apple Arcade, it's $5 a month, and you get all of the games in there. And there's hundreds of games now. There are dozens at least, but hundreds of games perhaps. And none of them have in-app purchases. It's part of the whole shtick is there's no ads, no in-app purchases, and they're fun. I mean, I just started playing some driving game. And a lot of times driving games, it's like, oh, do you want the better car? Well, you could spend hours and hours and hours and hours earning in-game money in order to get the better car, or for just $3.99. And it's just they get you a little bit. Yeah, and it gets addictive. Like I've sunk so much time and now money into this game, I don't want to give it up. And And this is, but with the Apple Arcade, you don't have to worry about that. And I really like that. And almost all the games that my kids play on the iPad are Apple Arcade games now, because they don't get confronted with any of that. There's none of those pitches and come-ons for spending money,
guilt trips,
right? And there's no possibility of them accidentally spending my money. Like some of these stories we've heard about kids with in-app purchases of thousands of dollars and that sort of thing. So I'm with Sid Meier. I think I'm not against people making money. I mean, I want them to make money because that means they'll make more games and improve the games. But it's all about priorities, and the priority should really be on gameplay first.
And I'd rather pay up front than do this little dribbling out type thing.
And if you make a great game, people will come to it and they'll give you money for it. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's always been. Awesome. And so our last headline kind of plays off of a discussion we had last week. We talked about robotic or autonomous semis on the highways. Well, this is about autonomous freight trains. Self-driving electric freight trains. And it's an interesting story where this company has proposed that what would happen is each rail car would be autonomous and electric, battery powered, have its own motor in it. So no more locomotive. And by breaking up these sometimes 20-mile long rail cars, freight trains, they can move the freight much more efficiently. They can go to exactly where they need to go. They don't need to be taken by one rail train to this place, then switch to a different train to be taken to another place. They can go right to the particular locations. They are much more efficient. When they get together, they can call platooning. They can connect up several at a time. And because they all have motors, they divide the locomotive work amongst themselves. And so they're much more energy efficient instead of one engine pushing the whole train. It sounds great. The problem is that there is, our rail system in this country, there are something like 600 different companies. That we've got 250,000 kilometers of railroad in the U.S. owned by over 600 different companies. Now, the vast majority of the rail is owned by a handful of very large companies. But even then, these are separate companies. How do you get them to agree to let these autonomous, cars ride around? And a lot of this track is single track. You can't have, there's not two tracks, one going one way and one going the other. So you have to have rail sidings, and the switching is very complicated and all this other stuff. So it sounds like, this would be really great. We just got to get a whole bunch of people to agree to do it. A very conservative, traditional, old industry has to agree to upend everything. What do you think? Is it a realistic expectation? And do you think it makes sense?
Well, I wish you could look at the rails as just being another highway that, you could have route traffic, and yes, you'd have to have computerization to make sure you've got things scheduled right. But I had seen one article that talked about maybe having parallel or additional rails that were just for these.
Right.
But they'd have to be done in more of a localized area where you would have a lot of freight going between several cities maybe, and these would be dedicated just to that. Now, the other thing I thought was good is, those 20-mile long cars, if you've got autonomous little engines, you could, instead of having somebody having to sit at a stop sign for all the cars to pass, you could break them, they would break themselves apart, let people through, and then join back up. I mean, you wouldn't be stopping traffic all the places. So I guess I would love to see this. The question is I don't think it's going to come to all the rail system very easily, but I could see where, some prototypes of doing this in smaller segments could lead to possibly, whether it's legislation or whether it's some type of a profit sharing plan or something, to let people see, yes, this is viable. And it's an alternative to having somebody sitting in a truck, having to drive. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea a lot.
Yeah. I mean, as it is, a lot of goods are traveling when they go long distance across the country, are traveling by rail, and then semis do most of the last mile stuff. But one of the things that they could do is set up stuff that can, like, from the ports to the railheads. It's right now that's all done by semi. And when we had the huge backups at the Port of Long Beach and the Port of Los Angeles earlier this year, where we didn't have enough trucks and we didn't have enough containers, and it was a hassle to get them to the railheads, if they had something like this, they could come right off the ship. The containers come off the ship, go onto one of these autonomous trains, and go right to the railhead where they get put on these long distance trains instead of waiting for a truck to take them. And then the autonomous system comes back, could run 24 hours a day. Even if we did something small, small like that.
Starting at small, localized for a particular need, and then you could hook these up together as you got more of them.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, I mean, it's the technology is there. It's our society that's not there. It's the way
our infrastructure
isn't there. Right. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Excellent. So those are our headlines. So let's move on to our picks of the week. And Pat, why don't you go first? What is your pick this week?
Well, we were talking about outdoors this time, and I know a lot of people who are cyclists, who are joggers, who are walkers, etc. And about the time that my husband had his stroke, he was a swimmer, and basically, you don't have much on you to identify who you are when you're in a swimming pool, when you're riding a bicycle. A lot of people don't bother to carry much with them. These days that they might have a cell phone, but it's probably locked, and so that people can't get in to see their emergency information. Although now there are methods that you can, put an emergency ID on them. But one of our doctors at that point said, you need to look at road ID. He said this was made for cyclists initially, but it basically is just a little rubberized band that fits around your wrist and is stretchy. And then there's this very small faceplate on it that's metal that has on there your name, the phone number of your next of kin or your loved ones or whatever. And it has room for a couple of those. And then it has a pointer to a website and a phone number that medical personnel can use to call or key in the number on there. And you've placed all your medical information there. You've placed your doctor's names, your medications, your medical conditions, your insurance information. All of that's online, that then somebody could look at your wrist or wherever you're keeping it. Some people put it on their ankle or on their shoe or whatever, or dog tags. There's lots of different IDs, but the idea being is that you're carrying around a lot of information in a very tiny space. And a lot of emergency personnel are used to looking for this. This has been around for 7 years at least, I know, because that's I know the time frame. And it's very inexpensive. I think, I'm trying to remember, I think when we got it, it was like $17 to get the band and the first year's worth of information put online. And after that, it's just a matter of renewing it every year and making sure you keep your medical information up to date. And so it's very inexpensive. And at one point, we got these for a lot of the kids and ourselves, and it's just, they're different colors. You can have sports insignia on them. You can make them as inobtrusive or as splashy as you want.
They even make them like as an Apple Watch band or Fitbit or Garmin band, which looks great. They make them for kids. I love this idea. If I was going to Disney World or some busy, crowded place on vacation with my kids, I might get this for them.
Or school trips, just even having them so that if they get separated from a group, there's something on them that people can find out who they are. I
remember when my kids were little, when we would take them into Boston, I would put my business card in their shoe, in case they got separated, like we're getting on and off the subway and we got separated. At least, the number would be on them. Someone would find it, that sort of thing. I like that. I like the idea of this wristband, and like I have the medical ID on my phone, which, if an EMT finds it, they know how to get that. But this is even faster because it's right there on your wrist or around your neck, and that's good.
It's analog. They can call a phone number, as opposed to having to have get on a website or whatever. Although they can do that too.
Right.
So
yeah,
and as I say, there's nothing electronic in it, so I just wear it all the time.
Yeah.
But some people prefer to wear it like around their ankle, or some people will have, they have ones that you can tie into your shoes while you're running so that it's tied into the laces. But the idea being is it's something you've got on you all the time.
Nice. They have stretch ones, like they're plastic stretchy bands. Others that have a clasp. I like that.
Right.
It's really nice.
I've got the stretchy ones. It's probably the original ones, and then they've added other ones. But yeah.
Yeah, they're like $25 for the stretchy ones, which is pretty good for peace of mind. Definitely. Excellent. I like it. I like it very much. I'll have to look into that, in fact. So my pick of this week is, it's not an app. It is a source, a news source. It's a web service called 1440. 1440. It's a news service, and I really like this. What it is every day I get an email from them, and it summarizes the top news stories of the day, plus some other fun culture, science, sports, politics, business, and then a bunch of fun links at the end of it. What I really like about, there are lots of news emails, daily news emails out there. What I really like about this, it's truly impartial. It is not slanted. It is just the facts. There is no opinion being pushed on you here. It is always just, this is what happened. This, this, and this. It'll give you links to other stories, and you can read those if you want. But it is refreshing in how impartial it is and how straightforward it is. I was subscribed to a different service out there recently. I won't name it, but it had a voice in the sense of it was kind of, the people writing thought they were funny, they would just make jokes in the middle of the telling you the news, and it's like, it just save the jokes. I want a quick overview of the day's news. Save the jokes, save the opinion. There's always a little bit of opinion in it. You could tell there's a point of view, like they tend to be Democrat, or they tend to be Republican, or they tend, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want your opinion about it. I don't want to have your slant on the news. Just tell me what happened. So if you go to join1440.com, that will be that's the website where you sign up. Just put your email in. It's free. It's ad supported. The ads are unobtrusive and not annoying at all. 1440, I think, refers as the year of the Gutenberg press. I'm pretty sure
it was something to do with the Gutenberg press. I get that one also. I really like that one. That's the one I will look at every day, and I've got several others that I'll kind of look at and maybe enjoy a little bit here or there. But it's the one that I really count on.
Excellent. Oh, I guess, the printing press was 1440, but there's also 1440 minutes in a day. So
I've forgotten that one.
Yeah, I guess that too. So that's nice. So check it out. I have no interest, in it. It's just an unbiased daily news aggregator. Okay, so that's it from us. We would love to hear from you, any of your comments on anything we talked about today, especially if you've got recommendations on tech for getting outdoors and getting out out of the house and into, now that we can all go outside and enjoy life again without lockdowns and such. We'd love to hear your recommendations for that. And if you have tech for camping recommendations for our upcoming show, I'd love to hear that. And if you've got ideas or want to support our project to build a PC, we'd love to hear from you on that as well. You can comment on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. You can send an email to technology@sqpn.com or visit the excellent, ever-growing StarQuest Discord community. It has been such a blast getting to know so many of you there and interacting with you. Sometimes podcasting can feel like I'm talking into the microphone, and is anybody out there? I love being able to interact with you guys in the community there at sqpn.com/discord. You can find links from our discussion and our picks of the week in our show notes at sqpn.com. Follow The Secrets of Tech in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, or at the StarQuest YouTube channel, where you should also hit the bell to get notifications. Until next time, Pat Scott, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
It's been fun. Thank you.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.